I wasn't snooping, at least not intentionally. The journal wasn't hidden. It was sitting openly on a bookshelf in his apartment, between a travel guide and an old photography book. Plain black cover, no label, no lock. Nothing that suggested it contained anything important. And the strange thing is, I walked past it dozens of times, maybe hundreds, and never once felt curious enough to open it until that afternoon. He was out running errands. I was alone in the apartment. Rain was hitting the windows. The kind of quiet afternoon where you start noticing things you've ignored for months. I pulled the journal from the shelf mostly because I thought it was empty, or maybe filled with work notes. Random thoughts, nothing significant. The first few pages were exactly what I expected: dates, short entries, travel plans, goals, normal things. Then I found a page that made me stop reading because looking across the top was a description, not of a specific woman, not of an ex, not of anyone named, just a list. The woman will be independent, but not so independent that she refuses help. She'll be ambitious, creative, emotionally guarded at first. I remember smiling because it sounded like one of those unrealistic lists people make in their 20s. A wish list, nothing more. Then I kept reading. She'll drink coffee too late at night, pretend she's not sentimental, keep old receipts for no reason. My smile disappeared because I kept old receipts, stacks of them. Every purse, every drawer, I always had. And suddenly, the room felt different. I flipped backward, checking dates, making sure I wasn't misunderstanding what I was seeing. The entry had been written years before we met. Years. I told myself it was coincidence. It had to be. The traits were broad enough. People overlap. That's normal. Then I turned the page. She'll hate being photographed, but secretly save every candid picture. I stopped breathing for a second because that wasn't broad. That wasn't generic. That wasn't something people guessed. It was me, or at least it felt like me. The deeper I read, the worse it got. Favoritism, specific habits, tiny personality traits. Things even close friends didn't know immediately. And before anyone says it, no, I don't think it predicted my existence. I don't think the journal was supernatural, but I do think something else was happening. Something equally unsettling. The entries weren't describing a person. They were describing an idea, a blueprint. And suddenly I started wondering, had he fallen in love with me? Or had he spent years searching for someone who fit the blueprint he had already created? There is a difference, a huge one. One is loving a person, the other is loving a role. And once that thought entered my mind, I couldn't get rid of it. I started remembering conversations differently. Moments where he seemed oddly excited when I matched his expectations. Moments where he seemed disappointed when I didn't. At the time, I thought we were simply learning about each other. Now I wasn't so sure. Because if someone years imagining exactly who they want. What happens when the real person inevitably differs from the fantasy? I finished the journal that afternoon, cover to cover. The last entry wasn't about relationships at all. It was a single sentence, you written years before we met. When I find her, everything will make sense. And for some reason, that sentence broke my heart. Not because it was romantic, because it wasn't. It felt lonely, desperately lonely. The kind of loneliness that places impossible expectations on another human being. Nobody can make your entire life make sense. Nobody should have to. I put the journal back exactly where I found it, and I never told him I read it. But after that day, I stopped trying so hard to fit into what I thought he wanted. Because maybe the biggest mistake we make in relationships isn't pretending to be someone else. Maybe it's trying to become someone's answer when we're supposed to remain our question. But if I'm being honest, I still think about that journal sometimes. Not because it scared me, but because it made me realize how easy it is to fall in love with an idea. This is private voice notes, where sometimes the things written long ago reveals a truth we are only beginning to understand.